Never mind your liver, get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.
Gino Shot.
Get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gino Spot tonight. Thursday. Wait. We're on Tuesday today. We're Tuesday. I always get confused between the days. That's the musician's prerogative, indeed. Welcome to Gino Spot, and tonight we've got a fantastic show. The Tuesday is our stalwart night, indeed. And tonight we've got Gavin Cowley on the show. We've got lots of stories, a bunch of storytellers. These sports guys, you know. Of course, EP cricket, EP rugby, EP hockey, EP tiddlywinks. God, Gavin, if there was anything, Gavin played it and he gave EP at it. At least EP. And Johnny, well, Springbok as well, and certain junior Springboks. He's got all sorts of stories about all these games. He's a commentator. He's got there's a thousand lives in one with Gavin Cowley, ladies and gentlemen. So stick around. We're going to see it. Thank you to our sponsors, of course, Fitch and Leeds, and to Spa, who've been absolutely bloody marvellous over this time indeed. Brennan Kelly, good evening, watching from Swellendam this week. Brennan Kelly is like a box of chocolates. You never know where he's going to be. You never know where he's popping out. I think it's fantastic weather. I hope the weather's getting, maybe the wind's dying a bit. Is the wind dying? So we're going to send us some nice weather here. A little bit of rain would be nice too. So send us a little bit of rain this side. Wendy Thompson, got my spot. Excellent. I've got my spot as well. I got this one. And of course, thank you to Fat Cats as well for our food. We've had quite a nice bit of food tonight, you know. From Grace, she popped around earlier and left us some munchies. And of course, we got our drinks, of course, our Fitch and Leeds as well. And to add to it, we've got a bit of Kasparov, Gazparov tonight. We have a bit of Russian vodka. What we are drinking, and a Spartacus, and we got Keith's Spartacus. We got a bit of Spartacus as well. Thank you to Keith Clark for that. What a legend, Keith. You sent around a little refill earlier this afternoon. Fantastic for that. And I see people online already. Wonderful to see you all here. We are, of course, just cheering people up over this, especially over this time of plague and pandemic. And we are also looking at the Eastern Cape, because we love the Eastern Cape, and of course PE. PE is our hometown. This is where we are. We're in the middle of Warmer, in the middle of the bush in the city. Isn't it amazing? This beautiful valley that comes up here. And we're talking about Warmer tonight because our guests grew up in Warmer, which is fantastic. I love to hear about that. And so let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're drinking. Let me know where you are watching from. Where are you watching from? Say how's it to me in the comments. And let's do a little bit of a song to sing in the comments. There we go. I feel good.
Oh, hey.
You know that I should now. Camilla Ellis. Hello, everyone. Aren't you getting hot? I am in this shirt. Hermanta Blanche says, how's the Gino? Anthony Just World Leisure. I always said that's a funny surname. Hey Gino, looking forward to your chat with Gavin. Icy cold in Spain. Woo! I wouldn't have thought it was icy cold in Spain, baby. That's right. Ronald Menor is awake. Ronald, wake up, young man. I'll hold you in my arms. How's it there in New Zealand or in Australia? I can't remember. Marraine says, hello, Gino. Oh, Kathy Marsh. Hopes that everything's well. Alan Carter. Oh, watching from the UK. Oh, Sean Pauls. That's a sun-faded province rugby jersey. It's a VP, baby. All right. Shane Carter's feeling good after this fun day. Ooh, Wendy Taylor. Southend. How's it from Southend? Lekker, just down the drag, eh? Just down the drag. Southend got such a lekker history as well. We've got to get somebody to talk about that Southend history too. Amazing. So I noticed at the spa there, the First Avenue Spa, they've got some great old pictures of Southend too. Sarah Thexton, all the way from Michigan. How you doing there? Minus 17 or something. I don't know what the temperature is there today, but oh my word, I know it's getting cold there. New Zealand was known. Ronald is New Zealand. And thank you for waking up, Ronald. It's fantastic to have you. Beverly Erickson, it's a good G&T. That's right, baby. Get your G&T. I've got a little bit of what you call this one is the grapefruit tonic, which is quite nice. Shane Carter. How's it, Shane Carter? That's right. Too cold there. Yes, indeed. It's minus to God, Lord knows what. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we have every Tuesday, we have our Fundi on Netflix, and that is Darren Fuller. Let's see what she's got to say tonight.
Hello everyone, 'tis I, Derry. I am quite obviously not in my lounge at the moment. I'm actually in Queenstown. I drove up this morning to do some education, blood education for my schools. And now I'm at my beautiful BNB Positano. Look, so green. Okay, so guys, this last week, I must apologize. I have been re-obsessing over Charmed, the original series. So I have been spending a lot of time just like zooming through those seasons. If you haven't watched it, it's totally worth a watch. Just based on the special effects in and of themselves, it's worth a watch. I mean, they vanquish a demon and he's like, it's like PowerPoint. So yes, Charmed. And then I did manage to watch some films. I watched a movie called The Odds. I really enjoy a film when there are only like one or two actors and it's just them playing off each other the whole time. So this film starts off, it's a man and a woman. They're sitting opposite each other at a table in like a darkened warehouse, and they're having this conversation. She looks somewhat stressed. He looks somewhat relaxed and professional. So after a while, you realize that this woman has agreed to play this game. Essentially, you do these series of activities, kind of like Saw-ish. And with each activity, people will obviously drop out, and then the last person standing wins the money. So this guy is getting the information from the people who are running this game, supposedly, like very Squid Gamey, and he is giving her the information, like, let's do this. So it starts off fairly simple, like things like, like holding your hand over a candle, and obviously it just escalates from there. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well acted. It's quite a roller coaster. I would definitely advise watching that. Then I did watch a horror, as is my liking, called Charlie Says, which is based on Charles Manson, played by Matt Smith, who was one of the doctors. So definitely advise that. It's basically just going through the history of the people who are part of his cult, how he dealt with them. Very well acted, very good. I would say watch that. So guys, have a fantastic week. And I will see you next week back in Rebecca with better content. Have a great one.
Well, thank you, Darren Fuller. That was marvelous content. I thought very, very nice indeed. And how is it going in? Is it Komani? I think Queenstown. Tell me in the comments. Is Queenstown now called Komani? I think I'm right. I think Konte. That is King Williamstown. That's the Dale Oaks there. And then Komani, I think, is Queen's College up there, Queenstown way. And we got our sponsors back here. Spa, indeed. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, it is time to bring on our esteemed guest, Mr. Gavin Cowley, all the way from Kaapstad, I think it is. Gavin, welcome.
Thanks, Gino. Can I start by just asking you? You haven't answered the question properly.
Yes,
about
which
that
one?
shirt you're wearing. You told me you love Port Elizabeth, eh? So why are you wearing an Argentina shirt then?
No, this is green. It's green here. This is my this is my high school jersey that I wore when I was at VP. So it's and then I'm gonna show you the socks, Gav. I don't know if you know these socks at all. Can you see the socks? I don't know. Can you check it? I'm gonna check it so I can get the socks here on the other camera. There we go. Those ones. Are those Sailor socks?
So it must be a Springbok sock, huh?
Hey, you know. I think it might be Saders. I was hoping that it was Saders. I can't remember what the Saders socks looks like. And then, of course, to honor you here as well, I've got the Adidas shorts as well. If you can, I'm climbing on the chair.
Well played, boy. Well played.
The tennis shorts, Johan Kriek style. And so it's all ready for you, Gavin. I'm in it.
Good man.
In fact, there we go. You can check it out. Check that out. Huh? How's that? It's making the women go wild. I can hear them screaming already. Welcome to the show.
You don't need me on the show. You can just keep going, man. Right?
No, the guys get bored of me, I'm afraid. They get totally bored of me. We need the guests to make things interesting. But welcome to the show, Gav. It's fantastic to have you on. You're so well loved here in the Eastern Cape. This show is all about the Eastern Cape people and people with Eastern Cape ties. And I know that your Eastern Cape ties have always been strong.
Yeah, no, they have been. I've actually been out of the Eastern Cape for more years now than I was in it. But I spent half my life there. And very special place. It never leaves you, to be honest with you. And I've lived in Pietermaritzburg and I've lived in Cape Town now for a very long time. Okay. But I miss the frivolity and everything else that goes with the Eastern Cape. It's a very, very special place. Still the best beaches in the world. Yes. Still the windiest place after Beaufort West, by the way. Second windiest place in South Africa. I miss my mates as well. You know, I've got a lot of good friends there, but many of them have moved on elsewhere too in the world. So the world has become an oyster in some ways. But the other important thing for me as well is that I'm sorry I'm not in studio there with you, and I'm at home in study. But it's probably a good thing because I've been watching you guys, and I'm in the Z team when it comes to drinking. So probably better than I am.
I don't believe you. I've yet to have a sportsman on the show that hasn't put away at least a good couple of beers on the show.
I watched Mike van Vuren. Van Vuren on your show, and he must have polished 8 or 9 beers.
No, you can go through them, you know. and on Alec Riddle and we had Daryl Dave Callahan was on as well. We also had Dave on as well. We also they've all got a history of some good drinking because apparently you need to replenish your electrolytes after the games.
Yeah. I'll tell you a
But
few
now,
stories about that.
I'm sure. But PE is like that. Don't you feel that? I mean, you lived your younger years in PE, and it's certainly. We always say that the first those 5 years of high school and junior school as well are incredibly influential on how you kind of turn out. You know, how you do things. And so you had that in PE.
Yeah, very much so. I was very privileged to have gone to a very good school in Grey, the Grey Junior and Grey High
Yeah.
School, right through. And interestingly enough, for Sub A, sorry, no, not Sub A, Grade 1, that's it. And
Yes.
then when
Yeah,
I
Sub A
left,
was, yeah.
yeah, at one point in time, I was actually not accepted at Grey.
Okay.
And my maternal grandfather was very friendly with Mac Pollock, Graham Pollock's father, who was on the committee at school, and he had a chat to him
Yes.
and influenced him to ensure that I actually was able to go to the school. So I did end up going there. And very privileged.
Did he know the secret handshake then? Obviously.
No, listen, there's no secret handshake at Grey. At the Grey, by the way.
At the Grey, yes. The Grey, yes.
Yeah. I've got these friends of mine in Bloemfontein, a lot of them.
Oh.
They all the Afrikaans guys,
Jonia.
They call it Grey PE. There's no Grey PE and Grey Bloem. There's no Grey Bloem either. There's only one, the Grey, and the other one is called Grey College.
Oh, right.
Simple as that.
Okay, no, well, we'll remember that. Us VP guys didn't really, adhere to those rules. Yes, Maroon says, how's it?
Lovely lady.
Yes, what a legend as well. Also, we're connected all over the place. There's a couple of them, the guys that have been involved with the show and watching, and it's lovely to have this sense of community. Gavin, over the last, especially over the last, I'd say 3-4 months, the show's been starting to go, and we're getting the sense of community happening, which I just love. PE's full of connections.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. But Gavin, tell us what you're doing at the moment. What are you busy with at this stage?
I retired from mainstream business about 8 years ago. I was marketing director at Adidas, South Africa, for quite a long time. Actually, I was 27 years at Adidas.
Wow.
And that's when I came to Cape Town. So I went straight into that position. And so I retired quite young, but I sort of mapped out things that I wanted to do. Try and make a difference in other people's lives in whatever that form might be. And so a variety of things. I carried on commentating rugby for Supersport, which I still do a fair bit of. And then I started doing all sorts of other things. I did some pro bono work for hospice. I started writing. I've written a couple of books. I helped out and I say helped out because it's sort of come to an end with the COVID thing now, but I helped out the Czech Rugby Union with their business plans and their direction and people, individuals that they could employ and that sort of thing. And then I was also lecturing at the business school here at Stellenbosch University. But as I say, those things, a lot of them have dried up now, so my main focus is really just commentating still now and obviously still writing. I'm busy writing an autobiography now, which was inspired really in the COVID lockdowns when I'd finished cleaning the garage and the rest of the house and had to find something to do. And so many people have said to me, please, won't you document your life, and I've always just left it at that, but I'm actually quite serious about it now. So I'm quite deep into a manuscript of my life.
Wow. I'm sure there's going to be lots of interesting. Is there anybody that's going to be worried about you writing a manuscript?
Plenty of guys. Plenty. The pen is mightier than the sword.
Indeed. No, it's marvelous, and it's it's, especially for the guys here in the Eastern Cape would love something like that because it'll have a lot of names and a lot of people that recognize. Because people really enjoy that. They're reading about something and it's like, oh, I know that guy, this guy. Carl Bauernmaster saying, how's it? Yeah. There we go. How's it, Gav?
Yeah, Carl there, I mean, he's just what a wonderful sportsman he was, and probably still is too. He's always super fit. And it's so good to see guys that have come through the ranks. You were at Victoria Park. Carl was at Alexander Road and turned out to be a fantastic sportsman, But I haven't seen Carl for a very long time. And of course, we played cricket together for a while too. So many of those old faces, as we call them, I haven't seen for a very, very long time. So if they all behave themselves, they won't form part of that manuscript.
So it's just a warning he's putting out there, guys. I love it. Carl, I believe Carl was doing also a multi sportsman as well, because you involved in rugby and cricket and hockey, and it was EP for everything. Gavin, was there anything soccer as well? I believe I don't know.
No, I didn't play soccer for EP, but I did play soccer. And I love the game. Yeah. So I'd play a rugby match on Saturday afternoon for EP. Sunday morning, I'd play hockey for PE men's. And Sunday afternoon, I'd play soccer for Old Grey. So it was like, it's quite ridiculous if you think about it. How did we manage to do all of that stuff? But somehow we got it right. And so we were very privileged, I think, to be able to do that, whereas the modern day sportsman has got to focus on really one sport. They don't really have an opportunity to play everything. But I think Carl was probably one of the very best all-around sportsmen the province has ever produced, Yeah. You could, any sport. I don't know how good he was in the pool, but you probably find he could go off the 3-meter board and do a double flick-flack and a somersault and all sorts of things. And so there were a lot of people in PE that were like that, and I think back to my days at Grey. Keith Reed was another one. Keith was exceptionally good all-round sportsman. And there were many others. But the modern day, you probably find less of that because, you don't really get that opportunity. And for me, in junior school, my mom was one of the top tennis players in South Africa. And so tennis was very much part of our home, and and I played tennis, and I was good enough at that point in time. And I'd love to have carried on with it. But unfortunately, you can only play so many sports. And it's just such a great social sport that, tennis, you can play that till you're 80.
Yes, this is the thing. You can. There's some sports that you can do that with. So the natural progression is like rugby, then beat up your knees, then then a bit of tennis, and then you go into bowls.
Yeah, that's right.
I think the standard progression. Okay,
that's next on the list.
I love it. And surfing as well. You didn't surf?
I did when I was younger. A lot younger. Sort of just into high school and that. But because I am a bit of a beach bum. I really enjoy the sea, and that's why coming to Cape Town was quite tough because I stay in Rondebosch, so I'm sort of equidistant from the cold side and the warm side. So Muizenberg is sort of area I go to swim in that. I don't surf, just to swim. But the water's flipping freezing down here, and I really, when I get to PE, the first thing that my good friend Martin Neff does is he takes me down to, what's the little beach there?
So it's not Saudi Bay or to Humud?
No, the one,
King's Beach.
The one past Humud.
Humud or Pipe or Hobie Beach.
Hobie. We go down to Hobie Beach,
Yes.
For a swim every morning and in some nice warm water. It's very, very special.
Beautiful. It is beautiful, and PE's got some of the best beaches in the world, hasn't it? I just absolutely love it. There's definitely huge potential here in PE. Or Gqeberha now, eh? Have you got the click right?
I try Gqeberha.
That's good. Yeah,
that's sort of like
it's like Bergies. We Bergies from Gqeberha.
Well, with apologies for using Port Elizabeth and the University of Port Elizabeth, those were the names when I was around there,
Absolutely. No, for sure. And so you at school from Grey from Sabay right the way to matric.
Yeah, right through to matric.
Okay.
And then 9 months of compulsory army training.
Okay. When was that? Was that like 70s?
Yeah.
What year are we talking about now?
Yeah, 72. So we only did 9 months.
Okay.
I was at the Army gym in Heidelberg in the old Transvaal. But I think they soon realized that I was probably the worst soldier that's ever been to the Army. I was useless.
G4, K4, whatever they used to call it. What was it?
Well, I wouldn't even know how to load an R1 or whatever it might be, but I spent 9 months playing sport. That's basically it.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah.
You know, it's not a bad thing then. You didn't have to go and shoot people up on the border or anything. You had to.
No. I missed all of that. But we did 9 months, and then some guy came along and said to us, if we stay for another 3 months, we won't have to do any camps. Because, you had to do camps after 9 months.
Yes.
5 12-day camps and 3-month camps or something like that.
Yeah.
And not one of us, we all just said, no, these guys are going to con us. I'm going home.
Out.
I'm going home.
Rather to the camps.
Yeah.
Oh, classic. And so, so then Army, did you study after that or?
Yeah.
What did you do?
So then when I came back, I studied at what was then the University of Port Elizabeth, now Nelson Mandela University.
Yes.
Yeah. So I finished my studies there.
And what did you study there? What did you do?
I was going to become a teacher. In fact, I wanted to be a veterinary. I wanted to be a vet, believe it or not, from quite a young age. And there was absolutely no chance with my mathematics results that I was ever going to get into Onderstepoort. So I had to switch then. And then I wanted to do clinical psychology. And the whole thing just didn't work out. And then ultimately I studied to be a teacher. But I've never taught a day in my life, and I really think that probably would have been my best vocation.
Well, it always helps. That study always helps somewhere in your life. Whatever credits you got there. And I see Gail Brackenridge saying how's it there as well. Oh, we lost him. We lost Gav. Where's he gone? I hope that everyone is still with us. Yeah. We've just lost a bit of signal with Gavin. We're going to try and get him back. Are you back, Gav? No, nothing there yet. Nothing here. Yes. Well, in the meantime, while Gavin's getting his thing together, I'm going to bring a special studio guest in as well. I'm going to see if when Gavin's picture starts moving again, we're going to bring him in. But Fires, please come into the studio, yeah, because we've got your headphones on. You're listening. God. And so when Gav comes back into the studio, we can just we can hook him up again. Maybe he's run out of data or something there. I don't know.
Data talking to the mic. Hello, Gav.
He can't hear yet. He's still going in. But Fires, I don't know if there's any stories that you've got about Gavin, because the cricket thing was happening at that stage as well. 70s. When did you actually start your cricket?
Well, I must tell you, I met Gavin in I think it was about 1975, and I realised that he was a guy that I hoped I'd get on very well with, and I did. I mean, a real character. Not only was he blessed with massive talent as a cricketer and a rugby player especially. I mean, those are the two games, the two sports that I followed him. I played with him. I played cricket with him, and I followed the rugby.
Yeah.
But I think more importantly, his ability to tell stories.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't actually know where to start, but if we can go back to some of the many stories that I remember Gavin telling us, and the one was, I think it might have been prior to an EP rugby trial.
Yeah.
Gavin was getting dressed, and
he's obviously phoning you, so I can hear the phone going. Yes,
Gavi, I promise you, I'm not going to burn you. If we may just digress, I must tell you, it was wonderful catching up with you the other night. I said to my wife, we were, I think, going to have a braai. I said, listen, I'm just going to give Gavin a ring to line him up for the show.
Yes.
And I said, it'll be a 5-minute call. It was 2.5 or 2 hours, 5 minutes later. It was wonderful catching up with you. And more importantly, it was great to hear that you're doing well. But to go back to the question Gino asked me about the many stories, and there were millions of stories. And the one that, or some of the many stories I recall, was you were getting changed in the changing room, and a little guy was sitting opposite you, and he was staring at you, and just then a valuables bag came past, and that was for the wallets and the rings and the watches. And then soon after that, another valuables bag came past. And I assume Gavin might have thought, now why is there a second valuables bag? And suddenly they're actually putting their teeth in there. And all the oaks put their teeth in one bag, and that obviously got sent off for safekeeping. But this little guy kept staring at Gavin, and eventually I would imagine Gavin said, can I help you?
Yeah.
He said, vat oom nie sy tande uit voor die game. And I mean, stories like that used to keep us so entertained on the cricket tours. And as I said, I mean, we couldn't wait for the guy to come back into the cricket fold after a rugby season.
Yes,
and in those days when Gavin played, rugby was pretty much March to September. And then he'd leave that and he'd come to cricket.
So I mean, at that time, there were definitely like, you'd have half the year cricket and half the year. And there wasn't, because these days they go, obviously the oaks go overseas.
Absolutely. No, it was very different in those days by comparison to today.
Yeah. Specialized.
But then, I'm sure I drove this oak mad. I mean, I used to like tag after him or come tell us a few stories now. Yeah. And as I said, there's so many stories, but just a few that I recall. We all, and a lot of us.
You got your headphones on as well, because I think Gav's back.
Hello, Gav.
There we go, Gavin.
Hello, boy.
We had a backup. We had a backup for you.
We're not setting you up here. I'm whistle across the park here.
I'm very suspicious of what's going on here right now.
No. There's no setup here. How are you, Gav?
I think you cut me off here, Mike, so you could get in front of that mic there for a while.
You see.
I was worried that you might have had load shedding. How are you, Gav?
Yeah, good, thanks, boy. Good to see you.
That's good. Yes, always good to see you, and thanks for a lovely chat the other night. I said to Dot it's going to be a 5-minute, we were having a bra. It ended up being a 2-hour, 4-minute.
Yeah, you were quite angry at the death there.
Properly. But listen, I must say, it was great catching up with you, and it's nice to see you looking well. I was about to tell him that story about Dennis Camphor.
Yes.
Because of the many stories he used to tell us on those cricket tours, when you got back from the rugby season, I was always enthralled by Dennis Camphor, and we actually debated the date, and you were quite right, it was 1979. Do you recall that Currie Cup semi-final?
Yeah.
And
very much so. In fact, the interesting thing was we'd actually played together, Dennis Camphor and I, as centre partners when I made my debut in 1974. And I didn't really know Dennis, I mean, I was still a youngster, and sort of my first game against Lancashire at the Boet Erasmus, and I was in the changing room, and I was quite amazed, because a very big changing room there too. There was a big table in the middle where, guys would sort of get rubbed up and that sort of thing. And then I saw there was a Standard Bank calico bag lying on the table. And I didn't want to ask anything. So, I mean, I wondered what this bag was for, having sort of come from school and that sort of thing. So we never had that type of thing. And, our school changing rooms were a lot smaller than that. Anyway, I saw the guys all taking their wallets and stuff and putting them in their rings, the married guys and all that sort of thing, putting them into this calico bag. And then I saw a whole lot of guys taking their teeth and putting it into the bag as well. Anyway, so I put my wallet and my ring in as well. And then I was like, when you warm up in the changing room, some guys like Mickey O'Shea used to go and puke. You get physically sick.
Really? Just for the nerves?
Every time, before every game. And then other guys would warm up differently, but Dennis used to charge against the wall. Dash his head and his shoulders and stuff. And I saw he was looking at me across the room, and we'd not played together. He was looking at me across the room like that, and eventually he came across to me and he said, can I wrestle with him, He wants to and he's a huge guy, eh? And as we were wrestling, he said to me, in Afrikaans, he said, haal jy nie jou tande uit as jy speel nie? I thought he was joking, but anyway. And but then we fast forward 5 years to that match. In the changing room, all he was interested in was that I needed to put a high up and under onto Darius Botha, the late Darius Botha, Nas Botha's brother, who was marking him. Dennis was playing on the wing, left wing, Darius on the right wing. And all he wanted me to do was to stick an up and under onto him so he could mutilate him. For
I
some
remember
reason,
that
he didn't like Darius Botha, and as luck would have it, I got a perfect situation where I had to kick a ball and kicked it up, and Dennis charged after it, and he was too fast. So he stopped and waited, and he let Darius catch the ball, and then he tackled him into the Barkens River. And when he fell
wonderful
down,
story.
he stood on him. He started trampling on him like this.
We could do that in the 70s, eh?
Yeah, you could. Not today.
Not today. We'd be all on camera, that's the problem.
He was a phenomenal man, Dennis. I promise you, he was. I had dinner at his home a few times, and it was absolutely beautifully presented, and his wife Jeanette and everything. But you let him loose on a rugby field. Peter Whip, the former Springbok, said to me he hated playing against EP. He was petrified that Campbell was going to get him, And Dennis would get guys sometimes from an offside position or whatever. But if you were his man, he'd get you, so one way or another.
Gav, wasn't he the guy who was quite surprised that Ray Gravel couldn't speak Afrikaans? Ray Gravel, the Welsh and Lions Centre.
Hy is seker Afrikaans gewees.
Gino, I promise you this ook entertained us so beautifully. And, the other thing, Gav, that springs to mind here is your and Peter Kirsten's performance against the Lions for the Barbars in 1974 at Ellis Park.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first met Gareth Edwards, he was so surprised all those years later that you and Peter especially you, hadn't got a Springbok cap.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter Kirsten, as we know, is a very talented man, and he only played a half a dozen matches for Western Province before somebody stuffed his knee up in a game against Transvaal. But Kersey played fly half, and I played centre that day, and we nearly beat them. It was touch and go. I scored a try, and they said it was a forward pass, and it was sort of in those days there was no television and no slow motion replays and that. So what
You were robbed. You were robbed.
Yeah, we were robbed. Yeah. But I tell you what, I do remember. I remember scoring that try, and I thought there was such a din. It was the biggest midweek crowd ever at Ellis Park. It was a massive crowd, and I remember turning and seeing, the referee had his arm up. So we went back to the halfway line. Now, in those days, you could go to a rugby match with many things, of oranges. So the guy started hurling oranges onto the field at the referee, Ian Goulet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember that.
And Ian Goulet, and he's also passed on now, but Ian Goulet, he made his call, and it might have been the right or the wrong one, whichever way you look at it. But I tell you, that after the game, a whole lot of people ran onto the field and attacked him. Because, in those days, you could go onto the field. All the spectators...
Yes, everybody ran.
And they flattened him. And if it wasn't for Kevin de Klerk and two huge Alsatian dogs with policemen that managed to take this guy off, Ian Goulet, he would have mutilated him. And he was shouting at him and carrying on and whatever. And 3 years later, Ian Goulet said to me, told me the story. He said he was reffing a match at Loftus in Pretoria. And as he arrived at the ground, he was walking in, and this guy came up to him and he said, "Excuse me, Mr. Goulet, could I have a word with you?" And he said, "Sure." And he said, "I was the guy that tackled you at Ellis Park. And I've come here to apologize. And I want you to know I live in Johannesburg. I've never been to a live game since then, because I was completely drunk and I lost my marbles." But I just want to get back to Kersey. So in that game, Kirsten, we get a penalty just inside our half, just inside. So it's too far for me to. So Kersey takes the ball and he says, "I'll take it,"
Okay.
So he takes the ball. Now in those days, you used to put a lump of sand down. You didn't have a kicking tee. And then you put the ball on it.
I used to hold it sometimes.
Whatever. And so I called the guy with the sand, and Kersey chased him away. And he made a mark with his heel, and he walked back And I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm in a drop kick.
Gee.
And I thought, oh my God, this could go anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
It flipping sailed through the uprights. It was
Wow.
an unbelievable kick, you know. And you see guys like him and Herschel Gibbs that have that sort of supreme talent. Carl
Yeah.
Baumeister, we spoke about a little bit earlier,
Yes.
that can do these things, you know.
So
Because he
Herschel was also multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good,
Okay,
Yeah,
wow.
he was phenomenal,
like
you
the
know.
same.
Okay.
And you know, Gareth. I've seen Gareth quite a few times subsequent to that series. In fact, I played against him as well in '76 in Cardiff for a World 15
Okay.
against the
Sure.
Cardiff club where he was part of that. You know, and what a great guy, hey? Michael, you know him, and he's just absolutely very, very special guy. That you know, he was a great player. But very modest and very down to earth, and you know, absolutely brilliant.
We actually found a picture of you with Davina Lovemore Coombs flying off to that particular game.
Yes,
Taken
yes.
at the PE airport. I'm not sure if Gary's got it.
Newspaper. I don't know if Gary's got it on the WhatsApp.
Oh, really?
He might have. You might be able to get that picture for us.
Yeah,
It was great with Davina Lovemore, Davina Coombs with you and some. Yeah, they were hostesses, I think.
Just before you boarded the plane, I think the picture was taken on the apron or on the tarmac.
The tarmac.
And the
Yes.
days
They were
when you
working
could
for
do that.
SAA. Yeah, very
Cardiff
much
Arms
so.
Park. Was that Cardiff Arms Park?
Cardiff Arms Park, yeah, very wet day.
Wow. Did they
And,
sing Land of Our Fathers?
Yeah, no, it was really cold there, and it was raining, and I played centre with Bill Osborne, the All Black, and our inside backs were two Frenchmen, Jacques Ferroux, the scrum half, and Jean-Pierre Romeo was the fly half.
Wow.
And they couldn't speak a word of English, not a word. and so I had a way of communicating.
They speak
So we
Afrikaans.
worked out. Now we had to work out how we could tell them
Yes.
what we should be doing with the ball. So, for example, you know, if you're going to kick it, then we sort of point to the boot, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're going to pass it, then we just went like this, you know. And I mean, the opposition could see all of this, you know. And they would just nod. And then Romeo, I asked Romeo to do a run around with me. So pass the ball to me at inside centre, run around me. I'll step in, take a man out, flip to him, and he goes through, you know.
Yes.
And I don't know, you know, less than a minute later, I was lying flat on my back. The opposite umpire had nailed me about 5 meters back because he was on my inside, waving like this for me to pass the ball inside to me.
Where
I
is
was
the
looking
ball?
at this
Where is
guy.
the ball?
Oh my God.
And
Language.
Gav, yeah, if I may just ask Gav a question here. Going back to that Port Elizabeth test in 1974, was there not a story about the Springboks arriving on the field late? They'd been addressed by the cabinet. You would have been in that changing room. I know the Lions, or some of the Lions wrote about how fixated and how almost desperate the Springboks were when they took the field against the Lions in that last test. I think that was the famous Battle of the Butt.
Yeah, it was too. Yeah, it was the 99 call as well.
Yes.
You know, sorry, that was the EP game. You know, I mean, I just started playing first class rugby at that stage. I hadn't played that many games, and suddenly I was part of this Springbok squad. And I could see what had happened. You know, we'd lost the first 2 test matches. There were 2 to come. So we want to try and save the series by at least getting a draw. And the Butt was the key one because we have an incredibly good record at the Boet Erasmus Stadium, the Springboks.
Yeah.
Very good record. The best of any place, any stadium in South Africa. So I think there was a belief that we could get it right. And that's why, you know, a lot of changes were made, blazers were dished out and that sort of thing. But when we arrived there, I mean, I couldn't believe what we were told to do. And I mean, I was just, as a youngster, I only knew one guy. That was Hannes Marais, who was our captain, and he was the captain of the UPE team as well. All the other guys were like my heroes at school, you know, Jan Ellis and all these guys.
Yeah.
And when they started telling us what we could and couldn't do, I mean, we were not allowed to leave the hotel on our own.
Really?
Nobody was allowed to go. We were not allowed to read newspapers, you know, and it was all that sort of stuff, which I mean, it seems crazy, you know. We were really being set up there. There was no ways we were going to win that test, but the way we lost it and the margin that we lost it by was the worst of all, And there's a few people, and sorry, they've all passed on now, who've got to take the blame there, for really a panic situation, I think, that they found themselves in, because you can't keep chopping and changing sides, And there were, I think, 37 guys that played for South Africa during the course of that series. But that Lions team was special. I promise you they were special. And we found it out when we played against them for EP, because we really thought, the best way to play a side like this is to take them on. Up front, of course, but also to take them on with the ball. So we run at them. If we get decent enough ball, let's take them on, Yeah. And unfortunately, they ended up to be a little bit of a, what in Afrikaans we call it a onder onsie, with George Barnard, the late George Barnard, who was our captain. And the next minute, we just heard this 99 call from McBride, and you just punch the first guy next to you. Anybody near you, just punch them, because the ref can't send the whole team off, and he won't know who the culprit is.
Did you catch one?
No, I was lucky. I was standing a little bit further away from this thing, thank God. And the man who was standing next to me was Phil Bennett. And Phil Bennett was smaller than me, so I could have given him a good clap. But he put his arm around me, and he said in his broad sort of Welsh accent, let's watch the show, So we probably the only two who never got hit.
So it was just a brawl. Was that thing? It was just to catch.
Well, he was there. Was Gareth Edwards not laid cold, and that's what started the freckle or the honest.
I still don't know, Mike. I still don't know who started it, but all I can remember is it sort of finished with Fergus Slattery flattering.
Flattening.
That's not the right word. And I'm not drinking. Flattering Kerry Van Eck with a roundhouse punch, and he was out cold, and then the game just carried on. In those days that's the way it was,
It's the thing we were talking about. Ali Bacher getting hit by somebody on.
Eddie Barlow
getting hit by somebody on the cricket field as well. Yeah, somebody just smacked him.
It was that spectator. You'll remember him, Gav, that used to wear the straw hat and shout, yes. Do you remember that guy? He used to intrigue you and tickle your pink there properly. He used to sit to the left of the players' pavilion. Yeah. And as I said to Gino the other night and to Gary, you'd be 102 for 9 chasing 400. And he'd shout, 6! Do you remember? He was your mate. He was the guy who actually flattened Eddie.
He with
a straw hat.
And people just, they used to get away with that stuff in the early days,
Yeah, Gino, I think also a lot of that had to do with people being allowed onto the field. Yeah. So Lawrence Seif coming off at lunchtime in a cricket match, Western Province were fielding. This guy ran up to him and shouted at him, take your hands out of your pockets, And he was ready and he was ready to take a full swing at him, And the thing is, there's no police around or anything like that. So, you rely on the goodwill of people, and in most cases, the people they just want to, be part of the scene or get an autograph or whatever it might be, But unfortunately, we've had to close up the stadium, and stop people going onto the field because it really gets quite dangerous. Listen, I told you about Gino. Excuse me, but I must tell you the story. The very first time I went to a rugby test, my dad said to me, "Would you like to go and watch the rugby test on Saturday between the All Blacks and the Springboks?" And I was 7 years of age, and so it was a great opportunity, and we went. And I've never been with so many people. It's such a big crowd. And we arrived at the Boetie Erasmus Stadium. We parked up near the church, the Dutch Reformed Church, I remember. And then we walked down. And when we arrived at the gate, there were so many people there. But there was a guy sitting there next to the gate. He had a pocket of oranges, and he had a syringe, and he had a bottle with some brown liquid in it. I was not quite intrigued by this thing, so I watched him, and he put the syringe into the bottle, and then drew up this liquid, and then he injected it into the orange. So I said to my dad, what's that man doing there? And he was very evasive, and he said, "Come on, we've got to get to our seat, And I kept watching this guy. And then I heard my dad later that evening telling my mother that this guy was injecting brandy into the oranges and then selling them to people as they come in through the gate.
Entrepreneur.
There was another guy who swapped his Anglia, his car. You know those Anglias?
Yes.
Those
With the back with Harry Potter car.
Yeah, for a test ticket. I mean, that's how.
I said to Gino, it won't be long before you're on a roll here. And here you go now.
But, you know, these things pop up. You remember them, you know, as they pop up. You know, I used to go and watch my mum playing tennis at the Davies Stadium.
Oh yeah, down the
which
beach
also
track.
doesn't exist anymore. You know.
Yes.
Yes.
The
And it
boardwalk
was the
now.
sugar circuit, and it was, and you know, we used to have these international players that came out. And I used to go down and I had a funny little camera like this, and I used to take pictures and collect sucker sticks, you know, like we did when we were little kids, and build things with it and that. And I had an autograph book which I treasured, you know, and Mark Cox and Mario Buono, the Brazilian woman.
Yes.
Oh, Mario, I don't know this man. You see,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the names you might remember them. This was a very long time ago.
Mario
And,
Buono.
She's signed.
Real
You know, no, I know
Brazilian,
you can speak Italian, but I don't think you can speak Portuguese. She
it's
wrote something in it. Yeah,
Okay.
Argentinian, yeah. She wrote something in the book, you know, and I didn't know what it was, and I asked my mum. I said, "Mom, what does she say?" And it was in Portuguese, you know, so my mother can't read. So she said, "Well, let's go and ask her." And so we went up to her, and you know, I'm a little guy like this, you know, and she said, "Come here, young man." And we sat down, and she asked me to sit on her knee, and because my mother told her what it was about, you know, and then she explained what she'd written down there under her signature, and it said, translated from Portuguese to English, "I hope you turn out to be a star one day," was what she'd actually written down there, you know.
Yeah. You didn't get tennis knee or tennis elbow. Sitting on her knee.
I don't know what I've done with that autograph book, because it was so treasured, you know, it was so special.
Yes.
And so you know, you get those experiences very young in life, and that's why I think you know, everyone who's listening as well, your kids, spend time with your kids, encourage your kids to play sport, you know, especially team sports. At least one team sport every year they should play. It doesn't matter what team they play in, but you learn so much from that. And don't be scared to take them to big sporting events. I promise you, there were so many things that I can remember from being a little boy, sitting in the stand watching a rugby match or tennis or cricket or whatever it might be, you know, that was just like so special. And it drives you. It drives you to want to achieve as well. You want to be like those people, you know. And as little boys in junior school, we had the opportunity at grade to man the scoreboard at St. George's Park cricket, or to work in the dressing room. And with the 1965 MCC tour of South Africa, I was in the dressing room. I was absolutely thrilled and loving every minute of it. And, you know, here was Graham Pollock and Colin Bland and Peter Pollock and all those key guys, you know. And they would go into the nets and hit a few balls around. And Colin Bland asked me if I would go and fetch another bat from his bag. I think his bat had split or something. But so I went to the change rooms, and I knew where he was sitting. Everyone's got their spot, as Mike said during his thing. Everyone's got their own spot.
You were behind the door.
He was in the corner, the opposite corner.
And so I opened the bag to take the bat out, and I noticed some little bottles in the corner of his bag. And I was quite intrigued, and I had no right to be scrounging in his bag, but I just picked up one of them to see what it said. And it had on it Mainstay Cane Spirit. So I put it back. This is one of those small little bottles. And I took his bat out to him. But I realized then why he was always asking me for Coca-Cola, you know? Now, I'm not saying that he drank during the day, but he certainly drank after.
No, he did. He did. You don't have to say it. I know he did. I've heard a good few
That's
stories.
magic. But what you were saying there about when you are young and your kids, I've seen, because I'm a drummer. I play drums, and there were moments in your life that little things happen and it pushes you on that route, you know. And I don't know if it was the same for you as well, where you had a moment where you got really interested in one specific sport or.
No, I never actually had that. You know, cricket was always my first love, funnily enough. Okay. But tennis before that.
Okay.
But I want to just pick up something that I mean. You say you're a drummer. I mean, you're not just a drummer. You're a flipping good drummer too.
Yeah.
You're a musician, and you know, we played a rugby match against Natal in PE one year, and I can't remember the name of the guy now. He played for the Wallabies for Australia, and he was playing for Natal at the time on the flank. A big guy, really big guy. Okay. And after the game, we went down to the Crusader Club.
Yeah.
And I remember him walking across the hallway, and there was a piano in the far corner.
Yes.
And he sat down and he started playing this piano quite beautifully with his big fingers and that, you know.
Was it not Shaw? Was he saying I'm not sure?
Sure.
No, that was Jeff Shaw.
Oh, Jeff Shaw, that's
played
another
for
thing.
EP. I know, I've just forgotten his name now. But I'll tell you what, when I was at school, and I regret it to today, that I cannot play a musical instrument. I promise you, you guys were all called naffs at school.
Yeah.
Everyone who played a musical instrument was a naff, you know?
The naff, yeah.
And I tell you what, I admire you guys like you won't believe. Now I really do, you know, but it wasn't like that at school. So everyone's born with a talent, Gino.
You
and
know.
you've got a talent. You've probably got more than one. In fact, you have got more than one. You know, it's Mike.
Yeah.
Look how beautifully,
Yeah, sure.
beautiful. Mike paints quite beautifully. He plays the guitar.
Yes.
He plays great sports. You know, I mean, it's just
Thanks,
use your
Gavin.
talents,
Yeah.
right?
Chicks in the
Exploit them.
And isn't PE a place where you can do that, because it's kind of in PE you've got to do a lot of things to be able to make a little bit of a penny here and there. You know what I mean? Always say it's small enough.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. Nothing wrong with it. You know. Yeah.
And
Show your worth.
I think it helps for people who want to do a number of things. Would you say your cricket or your rugby or which one would you say is your strongest suit, and which one do you enjoy the most?
Rugby was my strongest one. You know, in fact, in other words, I achieved more playing rugby than I did in cricket and hockey. You know, hockey I played for a relatively short period too.
Yeah.
But I don't know, cricket just somehow, you know, two of my uncles were very good cricketers. Ronnie and
Ron
Errol
Draper. Yes, and we thought he'd passed on, but he's very much alive.
I told you, and
I think he'd give me
I heard you guys, and no, he's very much alive. He's 95 years of age. He's the oldest living Test cricketer in the world, and he's taking it in singles now, just a little bit slower, you know, and he'll hit the 100 one day. He took over from a guy called John Watkins, who was 98, also a South African guy, who was then the oldest Test cricketer. So Ronnie and Errol both played cricket. Ronnie for South Africa, Errol for EP and Griquas. So I think I was like introduced to that sport at a very young age, because there were no rugby players in my family, you know, as such. My dad played hockey, they played cricket, and so that was sort of where the driving force came. And then I think also because I remember being a ball boy in rugby when I was a little guy for some of the first league games in PE. So I remember a game between Crusaders and Parks at the Crusader ground. And I was a ball boy running around picking up balls and stuff. And I remember a guy called Paul Murray, who I got to know after that, in fact, played against him too. He was still playing at the age of, 38 or something. And he shouted at me, you know, to fetch the ball. Yeah. But he shouted in Afrikaans, so I didn't really know what he was saying. And I couldn't speak at that point in time. And then I asked somebody to translate afterwards. And that cannot be repeated what he said.
Shame, Gav, I see a picture of your dad over your shoulder there, if I'm not mistaken. In the background. I remember your dad fondly. Is that not your dad behind you there?
Yeah, no.
That picture, over this shoulder.
Left. That's
in the top corner. Is that not your dad?
No, that looks like an early Gavin, that.
Oh, is that you?
That's with the big
Please excuse me, my eyesight's not great, but it looked just like your dad.
That's a very nice...
My
There we
picture.
go. There's your leaving for Wales.
Okay, well, how about that, eh? Wow. All back to past.
Yeah.
My dad was a fighter pilot in the Second World War, you know. And so the only picture I've got of him really is flying.
Yes.
Somebody took a photo of him, you know, when he was flying in a Harvard.
Wow.
And yeah, so that's sort of quite a nice memory because, you know, he's passed on. My mum's passed on as well.
Yeah.
Yes, shame.
So I've got that upstairs, you know. It's not
Okay,
here in
lovely.
my study.
Of course,
You know-
PE was home for the Harvards, eh?
It was too, yeah.
Yeah.
My dad was a major down here in the Air Force, or not. He wasn't in the Air Force, but in the civilian Air Force, whatever you call that, you know. I mean, he was obviously had a job as well, but that's what he was doing. But I tell you what,
Okay.
coming back to what I was saying a little bit earlier about youngsters and all that, you know, at Grey, in Standard 6 or Standard 7,
Yeah.
grade 8, grade 9, we used to have a visit from people at the school from time to time that would come and talk to us, you know, to the whole school
Yes.
during assembly or after assembly. And this guy arrived there, and Mr. Edkins, who was our headmaster, introduced him and beforehand as Douglas Barder.
Oh wow! Yes, of course.
And I had no idea who this guy was, but then I read the little, you know, tailpiece on him and that, the fighter pilot thing and all that, and that,
Yes.
then I had an interest in it.
No
because
legs.
of my dad's background.
Yes.
And you know, when he arrived at the Grey School, if you've ever been into the main hall at the Grey High School,
Yeah.
to go up onto the stage, you've actually got to take some quite steep steps, you know, to get
Yes.
up there. And he arrived, and he was like a shortish guy, you know, and he had no legs.
Yes.
No,
got
he
no
had
legs, yeah, of
prosthetics.
course. Yes.
And he wouldn't allow anybody to help him up onto the stage.
Really.
And he battled his way up like this, you know, and eventually got on, and we all cheered, you know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people didn't even know that he had prosthetics. But
Yeah.
this man,
Yeah.
I can't remember what he said, but I remember one thing that he reminded us all about, and that is to never give up.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of personified his life, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's funny, Gino, we mentioned it just now. These little things, they stick with you, you know.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
pass them on to your own children or on to others as well.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you can learn
It
from
often-
those things.
It often has a profound impact on your future life, you know, and you
Yeah.
don't realize that those little decisions make you go, you know, and you might have had that with sport, or whether you, like you was talking about doing psychology or doing you know, stuff like that, which way you were going to go, and these little decisions decide for you, you know. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm
Yeah.
going to kick
So
it
you
in.
learn
or
from
you're
other
gonna
people
do it.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
time. Never stop learning.
Now,
I'll tell you a question I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind. That 1974 Lions tour, and
Yeah.
maybe you and I have touched on this over time or many years ago, but I often wonder, and you don't have to answer it, but your feeling when you never got onto the field, especially when the whole of South Africa believed you should have been on the field. Do you remember how you felt about that, Gavin? How you handled that disappointment? I mean, and I asked that question because, I mean, there's no doubt you should have been a Springbok.
yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that as well.
Yeah. Mike, I think there were perhaps a hell of a lot of other people that were even more disappointed than I was.
Sure.
Yeah, I had a level of expectation, not in 74 necessarily. So it was the last few test matches, you know, and I was on the bench, and in those days you were a reserve, not a replacement. So you could only go onto the field if somebody came off injured.
Injury.
Yes.
Yeah, which often didn't happen. So that was fine. You know, I was still very young, and I'd only played very limited first class rugby. But then there was a tour to France at the end of that year, not too long after that tour.
Yeah.
And Ian Kirkpatrick, who was the Eastern Province coach at the time, told me I'm going on the tour. He was a selector as well. He told me quietly that I'm in the team, and something must have happened, because when the team was announced, they picked Andre van Staden from Northern Transvaal, who was 32 years of age. You know, I was 20,
Yeah.
which didn't seem logical in terms of making an investment in the future
Yeah,
if they
yes.
believed I was good enough. life, and so that was probably more disappointing than anything else. Was not being, and not I never got an answer from anybody in that respect, And look, there were a couple of high-powered people who shall remain nameless who didn't make things easy for me, and I was also maybe quite opinionated at times. I would say what I believed in, and maybe that wasn't the expected thing from a lot of the people. So, you take the rough with the smooth, and that's it. You got to keep fighting,
Yeah. Just lastly, and I had a quick chat to Gino about this. Are you aware that you might be the only guy in the history of first-class sport to have been involved in 2 walk-offs? A guy called Tony Evans mentioned this to me on the weekend at Bushy Park.
Yeah.
Do you
think about 2 other countries.
Exactly.
Yes,
quite
tell us
correct. I didn't
this
think about that.
What was the story with that, Gavin?
In 1972, when I'd come out of the army, my very first Currie Cup cricket match was for EP against what was then Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo. And Graham Pollock had broken his finger, and that's probably the main reason why I was selected as well, because I was 12th man for the first match against Transvaal, and then I was elevated for the next game. So Graham wasn't playing, and Laurie Wilmot was the captain of the side. And the Rhodesian team was an outstanding side. I tell you, they were really good. Mike Proctor, Brian Davison, Duncan Fletcher, Jackie Herring. I mean, you mentioned it. They really had a good side. And we had a pretty good side too. Anyway, it was quite an incredible game, because we set them, I think, 320 to make in the 4th innings. And they went along quite well. Brian Davison got runs. And the last hour of play normally was 20 overs would be bowled. Okay? But you would, after your drink session. So you would have drinks. They'd come on the field with drinks, and then 20 overs would be bowled after that.
Okay.
And Laurie Wilmot went up to one of the umpires, and he said to him, "Is this the first of the 20 overs?" It was 5 o'clock on the clock; you could see it.
Okay.
And he said, "Yes, it is." And so at the end of that over, the drinks came on. We had our drinks and we carried on, and then the over started again. Now Laurie was counting them as they were going down.
Yeah.
And Paddy Clift, the late Paddy Clift, and Mike Proctor were batting at the time.
Yeah. Sure.
And they needed 7 runs. When the 19th over, according to them, had been completed, there was 1 over left, and they would have got the runs as well, I'm telling you. And Laurie said to us, "We're off the field." And none of us knew what was going on. And he said, 20 overs have been bowled. I cleared it with a So we went off the field. Mike Proctor very cleverly stayed on the field with Paddy Clift at the crease.
Yes.
Because he knew the umpires were going to call play at some stage, which they did twice. They called play. And the rest of us, the EP side, we were all on the side of the field heading for the dressing room, because there were some very irate people on their way around the perimeter of the field heading out. And so that's what happened. The game was concluded. The umpires gave the game to Rhodesia, of course, but it had to go to, the judiciary. And after a long and very involved process, Laurie won the case.
Wow.
And Rhodesia would have won the Currie Cup if they'd won that game legitimately, whichever way you look at it. They would have won the Currie Cup for the first and only time.
Oh,
and
man.
That was me. That was the first one. And Mike Proctor had 5 ties made with walk-off on them, which he gave to the umpires and Laurie Wilmot and himself. So, You know?
Yeah,
Well, you know,
Mike Proctor was the first ball I ever watched at a game for
You said
myself. I was standing side on at St George's Park, and I watched this guy bowl, and I thought, oh my God, I've never seen anything that fast in my life.
proper.
He was quick.
Nor did I, by the way.
But now, funny enough, Gav, you go back to the umpire, and I know you're very correct. I'll say it. The guy's name was Ian Forrest, if you remember.
Yeah.
And he then got banished, or he retired, or he left the game, and he came back in 1980, the bastard. And we were at the Wanderers. I'm not sure if you were there. It was the game where the guys were getting hit and arms were being broken, and Ivor got hit on the head.
Yeah, no, I played that game, yeah.
Yes, on this absolute snake pit. And we had them 15 for 3. And Graham got a massive nick off Brickers, bat, thigh pad, caught it short leg, and Forrest said not out.
Oh,
But Graham would have been out for 3 or 4. And he went on to make 157. And I remember hearing him afterwards, or when the game was over, he said, well, I just put my foot down the wicket, or I leant forward, or I leant back, and I hit it. I just went through it as hard as I could. So if he top edged it, it flew there, and if he hit it in the middle, it flew there. He got 157 on a shocking wicket. But Forrest was that umpire.
again.
Yeah, he was the umpire who started the cuck there in
Ian Forrest,
Rhodesia.
that's quite right.
Yes.
He was.
And he left the game for a while and then came back to haunt us at the Wanderers. I mean, 15 for 3, Graham out, 15 for 4. You went with a chance here.
Yeah.
One chance here, 157.
Oh my word! And the second time, what was that about?
Yeah, then a few years later, 1976, we were playing you had to play a compulsory friendly match, rugby match every year. So we would play like Eastern Free State in Bethlehem or whatever.
Okay.
And so we had to play against Southwest Africa, Namibia, in Windhoek. And I've heard the stories from people who actually grew up in the country about these guys who were looking to soften us up, you know. And Terry McGee was our captain, and I was the vice captain. And these guys just came out punching. I tell you what, that game had hardly started, and you know everybody was flattened. And Tommy van der Westhuizen had a bloodied mouth, and you know he was our lock forward. And it was disgraceful. The referee had no control at all. And Terry spoke to him, you know, and pleaded with him, and then he started threatening him almost, you know.
Yeah.
And we went in at half time, and when we came back in the second half was hardly cold. When somebody got flattened again, and Henny Creel, our left wing, ran up and stiff-armed one of the Southwest African guys and just knocked him out cold too, you know. And Terry just said, that's it. And he said, we're going off, you know. And I remember turning to him and saying, Terry, Sherbert, we've got to be very careful. This is one hell of a decision that, you know. There could be huge ramifications here.
Yeah.
And he was adamant, we're going off. And so off we went, you know. And my last picture at the corner of my eye as we went into the changing room was a group of guys burning a Eastern Province rugby flag in the distance, you know. It's terrible. And Terry was hammered. I mean, he was stripped of the captaincy. He was kicked out of the game for a year, you know. And it's one of the things I regret in life. I didn't give enough support to him.
Support,
you know?
yeah.
Maybe that's what I should have done.
Protecting the players. These days, it would have been a problem at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, it
Crazy
works very
stuff.
differently now. And I think it doesn't suit a lot of guys, you know, but you can't get away with anything now. Absolutely nothing. You know, just talking about that while we're on rugby, I must tell you a quick story about, you know, I commentate for Supersport as well. And somebody said to me the other day, have you made a few blupses before? So I said, yeah, of course. I mean, I know I called Edwil van der Merwe Edwil van Aarde once. Edwil van Aarde. Perhaps the worst of all was doing a post-match interview at Newlands. The Western Province had played against Free State. And, you know, so you have the winning captain and the losing captain and then the man of the match. And then the man of the match was Naka Drotsky, who was the captain of Free State, you know, their hooker. And so we went through everything, and Naka's quite a serious guy. He's a hell of a nice chap. And I started talking to him and asking him a few questions and whatever. And the next minute I saw out the corner of my eye again, and you can't see this at home because your camera is focused on us. But, just off camera, our floor manager, who's the most important guy around because, he gives you the countdowns and all sorts of things and organizes everything. He was grinning like a Cheshire cat. And he was like, and I could only assume that I've made a cock up somewhere, but I have no idea what it is. No idea.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we finished the interview. Naka shows absolutely no emotion at all, I mean, he answered the questions and off he went. He didn't say a word. And I went straight across. I mean, I was off camera. I went straight across to Roy Marks, the floor manager. And I said, Roy, what are you laughing at? He says, you know what you just said? So I said, no, what did I say? You said you love giving it to a hooker. And I said, no. Yes, you did.
Oh, I can see you getting on a roll, Gav. Gav, listen, if I may, it's been wonderful talking to you. I'm going to phone you. I must go to a little party now, by the way.
Yes,
it's Patty Mars' birthday.
We're saying goodbye to Fires now.
Yeah, I beg your pardon?
Whose birthday?
It's Patty Mars' birthday. And all the girls are at Pedsac, so I'm going to go and join them for a quick beer.
The fishermen.
Yeah. And
talking about hooks.
Yeah, don't forget to tell Gino. No. Jeez, I must take you fishing one day.
I listened to the TV with all that fishing, and see, there's another talent he has.
No, that's a love. That's a love. But But listen, it's been great catching up with you. I'm going to give you a ring, and thank you very much for the wonderful stories. Don't forget that dreaded 5-cent piece game that you brought into the EP cricket side. I think you introduced that. Jeez. Wallets were empty on the way to Joburg. Wallets were often empty before the plane went over.
Oh, really?
I think he introduced that game. And then the 6 for 32 at the Wanderers in the Nissan Shield final. I think that might still be a record.
Wow.
And, am I right in saying that, Gav? You got 6 for 32, did you not? Was it Gillette Cup? Yeah, 76, I think it was.
One of those days, Mike, you know what it was like at the Wanderers? Sometimes the ball used to swing like this, and it just it was swinging all over the place on that day. Yeah.
It swung when you bowled. It swung off the bat when I bowled.
No, I got plenty too.
But listen, I must tell you, it's been fantastic catching up with you, Gavin. Thanks again for the wonderful stories and all the wonderful memories. Good to see you looking good, and love to Shelley and the family.
Excellent.
Oh, no, thanks, boy. Thanks so much.
Pleasure, Gav. Good to see you.
Look forward to catching up sometime, eh?
There's some more acts coming down the hill here from 7th Avenue Walk.
Bring on a surprise or two. So Fires came on just for a bit. Of course, that Fires, Fires, he doesn't keep quiet for too long. We've got now while we're on this, I got this book from Tomo just recently, and it says your friendship, lifetime of friendship, and it's a book that you wrote about Martin Neft. you wrote his autobiography, did you?
That Gino, Martin. Martin. He's
I don't know. We can. Martin is a childhood friend of yours, but I'm sure we can actually. I think we can probably bring him on right now because we got a little link to him as well. Hello, Martin. Welcome.
Hi, Gino. Hello, boy. How
did you get onto this thing? Somebody must have put you on because he's digitally completely inefficient.
Well, you saw some.
When Fires van Vieren gets involved, Bill, then you must know. So I'm sitting now in New Bethesda, beautiful little country settlement here at Furrows Lodge, and I'm talking to you, Gav, and to Gino.
Isn't it wonderful?
Makes my day. It makes my day. Thanks, boy.
But tell us about this, Gavin. You wrote the book was about stories about Martin, yeah?
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about this now. So Martin was a Springbok cyclist, one of the very best. And I used to go and watch him cycling when I was a little boy, and I didn't know him then. So he wasn't a childhood friend, eh? We only met a little bit later.
Oh, later.
But I used to watch him at the Westbourne Oval, and that place was packed on a Friday night, eh? Packed with people,
yes.
and him and Willie Marks and Alec Ward and all these guys cycling. And Martin was a champion. He was a Springbok cyclist. And as he says, he had a lot of support there. He said, the girls used to run down to the fence and throw their panties at him, when he came around the last
Well, I see
bend.
there were women around him now as he came on,
But Martin turned 70, 2 years ago. And I thought to myself, what could I give him as a present? Because he's got everything, And, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to find 70 photographs of Martin, and I'm going to write 70 stories on him and put it in a little book. Because I know Martin, he doesn't read books. He likes pictures, and if it's a short story, then he'll read it. But he gets bored otherwise, And I managed to keep this thing quiet, that he didn't know about it, And so that's the composition of that particular book. I can promise you that book has got however many pages in it. If I had to write a full story on his life, you would multiply that by 10. But those stories you can't put into that book. So
No.
these are all
Yes, of course. But,
you can ask Martin about when he got the book.
Yeah.
Yes, tell us the story, Martin. What's the story here?
Surprise.
I got hold of Gavin and I said, listen, Gav, with all my wonderful friends at Adidas over all the years and the Puma guys, they're all in Cape Town. Why don't we have a little function in Cape Town, maybe somewhere at Newland somewhere? And we got together on that. And he said, Marty, you don't have to worry about anything. I will sort out this whole thing for you. And I said, okay, let's go to Skalkberger, old mate of ours, and get some wine to give away to everybody or whatever. And he said, don't worry about anything. I'm sorting it out for you. So off I went to New York with my family, and I didn't worry about a thing. When I got back, I walked into my bedroom, and there on the bed lay this big envelope. And I thought, from Gavin Cowley to Martin Neft, and I thought, wow, okay, so what he's probably done, he's made T-shirts or something for everybody. So I dragged it open, I had a look, and here was this unbelievable gesture, this book that Gavin had done on me. Now, every time he came to PE, he would ask me questions, like we'll go out and have a steak somewhere or a beer somewhere after he comes to commentate in PE, and then he must go back to the hotel and scribble all these damn things down. But the picture's unbelievable. We've traveled the world together. I've slept in Baker Street in the hotel where he was, because when I asked him for tickets for the Arsenal Sheffield United, I think, or Sheffield Wednesday game, FA Cup final, he just said, Marty, where the hell do you think I'm going to get tickets from? I said, Gav, we'll find them. He said, well, bad luck if I can't get them. So he went on a walk with the guys in Baker Street, London, and when he saw again, I was in his bedroom, and there I was, nicely packed out, everything sorted, slept on the floor, and it was just exciting and interesting. So we've traveled a hell of a lot. We've done a lot of things, and I know a lot of things that Gav has happened to him. For example, where when he played cricket in Craddock, one day, guy standing on the outfield said to him, hey, Cowley, if you hit my car, you can hazard. And it was things like that, But I loved watching him play rugby. I really enjoyed him so much as a fly-off. He was fantastic. I loved to watch him. And, cricket, I love that as well. I just love sport in general.
Yes.
Anyway, so I came back. There was this beautiful book with all the pictures in and everything else, and photographs he had smuggled from my family, or he got them from somewhere. And he, I was just so enthralled, and I was so happy at what he'd done. And then we had the function in Cape Town at Kelvin there, and everybody got a book. And still today, I get people saying to me, how come I never got a book on you, Marty? I said, well, just remember, this is a petty cash book, eh? If the genuine book comes out, I'm in Paulsmore, that's for sure. So again, let's not worry about the second book.
Gino,
I think it's wonderful.
Gino, I was just, Martin touched on the Baker Street with that
Yes.
football match in London.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
The hotel we stayed in, and he, of course, was sleeping on the floor in my room at no charge. It was called the Sherlock Holmes,
Oh.
and it was a home that his mother grew up in.
Oh, no
Martin's
ways.
mother Pamela grew up in that same building. Can you believe it?
That's it.
Good grief.
That's it.
It's amazing how things sort of tie together. And I mean, you were both in 7th Avenue. So what age were you when you met each other then? Was it?
Well, you know what, Gavin was living in 7th Avenue. I was in Johannesburg. I moved back to Port Elizabeth. And when I got back there, Gavin got injured, badly injured. And then there he was with his broken leg and everything, lying in bed at home. Visit him every morning with a Herald, take it to him and whatever. Then I got Lawton Fourie, the president at the time, to give me permission to park the car under the scoreboard on match day. And I used to love to take Gav there and go and sit and watch the rugby and so on and so forth. And we just became better and better and great friends. We are just, great friends.
Martin lived in 7th Avenue as well when he came back from Joburg.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He moved to Prospect Road now.
Yeah.
Because Martin, we're here at the moment. I mean, 7th Avenue is literally I can throw a stone now and hit 7th Avenue.
Okay. Well, don't do it.
Thomas Road.
I'm in Thomas Road. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in Thomas Road in the valley.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so we've travelled all over the world. We've been to World Cup soccer, World Cup rugby together. We shared quite a few things in Hollywood. Going to Graceland also. Going to say hello.
Yes,
to
I see
Priscilla
a picture of you and Elvis Presley, Martin.
That's a phantom picture. That's a little phantom picture. But then we knocked on the door in Graceland. We pressed the button, and when Priscilla came to the door, wanted to know who we were. And when I told her, she just put the phone down and whatever. Then we went around the corner. Pat Boone was mowing his lawn, and we started.
Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis.
Sorry. Tony Curtis. And there was old Pat Boone also doing something and so on. And then we went to a function, and Mona from Who's the Boss was there, and Kerry could see her. And they said, Marty, come and have a picture with Mona, whatever. I said, who's Mona? So, it's not really my game. Kerry could
The long red hair.
Yeah. Kerry could see was my game, but Mona was a petty cash voucher in my life. But we had a great evening there together. All the Adidas guys, Danny O'Hagan, Marcella Fiasconari. Yeah, Kerry could see her.
Yeah. He was the one with Wendy, his dog, eh?
That's right.
And I always got a story with Kali Knutzer. He said that he said that Gerry, he's a soft guy. He's a big guy, but he's a soft guy. But if he moor you,
then you're gone.
Then you're
gone. Gav, so this was fantastic that we could get together like this, I must admit. It was quite a job today because I've been traveling and I'm staying in this beautiful little village near Bethesda. And they helped me to put this thing together because I said, hey, guys, I don't know about internets and funny things here. I don't even know. I still don't know if there's TV here or not. But there's a lekker pub around the corner. I went and had first beer. Then I had the second beer to just calm my nerves a bit. And here I am. And just great to be with you guys.
It's like the South End of old, right?
It is.
Yeah.
There's the basement, the one with the basement that goes down there. Is that the one? The pub?
No, this one's just around the corner here, luckily, so I can fall home. I don't have to worry about driving and speed traps. And
lovely. And the Owl House?
I thought
the Owl House is there.
Margie, my wife, says to me, well, where do you want to stay? I said, just book me in the Owl House. I know there's an Owl House there. He said, you can't stay there.
No, you can't.
So they booked me into this lovely place where I am now. And, it's just beautiful,
Oh, man. And were you both with Adidas? Is it Adidas or Adidas? I never know how to say it.
Adidas. And we were together there for a long time. I was there for 18 years. And then due to circumstances, I moved on. to Puma.
Okay.
And I've been with Puma for 16 years. And now my son Gustav is handling that side of the business. And I'm just enjoying my life and doing all sorts of funny other things. Like this.
Have any of you two
Gino.
got a favorite story from the book?
Wow, too many, eh? Gav, you might hit on one or
I'll
two
tell
of
you
them.
the best story in that book
Yeah.
involves his grandfather. And,
Yes.
and it actually tells you a little bit about the Neft family.
Was it Gustav, huh?
Yeah, good
Yep.
stuff.
Gustav. I see, and
Anytime-
also there's a beautiful pic there of
Wonderful.
the bikes, eh? I love that.
Yeah. Oh, yes, right.
That's when we went to the World Championships. That was training to go to Amsterdam to the World Championships in 1967. So
Woo.
giving my age away a little bit, but yeah,
Yes.
long time. And a good thing about that is that all four of us are still alive, which is fantastic.
Sure. Yeah.
Those four guys who rode at the World Championships
Yeah.
in Amsterdam in '67, we're all still around. Yeah.
So
Anyway,
you said, Gavin, you said that the best story, yes, the with Gustav.
That's a remarkable story, that what that man achieved. And I don't, Martin was decided. I mean, I loved all the stories, everything, because I had first-hand experience with a lot of them,
Yes.
where we'd driven down south of Los Angeles and they were shooting, what was that, David Hasselhoff on the beaches.
Yeah.
And,
Night Rider.
Martin doesn't wait for an invitation. He just goes down and goes and shakes people's hands and runs around them and does his thing, And
Baywatch or Night Rider.
Carly Trail sort of the back. Whatever that show was, they were doing some shoot on a beach there. And
Yes, that's Baywatch.
Baywatch,
Yeah.
that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
Baywatch.
that's it.
And then he swam in 3 oceans in 3 days.
Oh, nice.
That's right. That's right.
Pacific,
He was-
Atlantic, and Indian. In 3
Jeez,
days.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we
classic.
were coming back from Los Angeles from the World Cup, and then we had problems with the aircraft, and we stopped over at Ile de Sol,
Oh,
and then we swam there. Then it was Cape Town, and then it was Port Elizabeth. So
Gee
straight
whiz.
into the sea, and in those 36 hours we did that. Eh?
yo.
Gav, yeah. The one thing I can say about Gavin Cowley, he's a great sportsman, great hockey player, great cricket, obviously,
Yeah.
and also fantastic rugby player. I was totally so disappointed that Gavin Cowley never got his Springbok colours. I must admit.
Yeah,
that
we were
was
just
one of
talking
my-
about that. Yeah.
one of my heartbreak stories, because that day in Johannesburg, I went to the Carlton Hotel to just wish him well and everything. And as in those days, you didn't have all these hundreds of guys on the bench. You only had, you played and that was it, and then I think 2 or 3. And then some other player, I'd rather not mention names now, but he came on instead of Gavin when Gerald Bosch got injured, and that destroyed me, I
Gerald
must be
Bosch.
honest.
Gee whiz.
Yeah, but I want to say this, Gav, the morning that you phoned me and I had a bit of a bubble ass and you asked me, please, to come and play squash with you. Now, I knew you were a great squash player, but I did warn you that I've never held a squash racket in my hand before, but I'll go with you and then we go and have a coffee somewhere. Anyway, so when we were there, he said to me, Marty, what you do, throw the ball up, hit it up against, above the line on the wall there, and then just hang fire, and the next thing must happen. Anyway, I didn't understand it all. Well, the first moment of that little squash game, I ran Gavin into the wall, and he lay there, and he said, Marty, I've got to play cricket next week, and I've got to do this. And I said, well, Gav, I warned you. So he said, okay, let's try again. We were on that squash court for 2 minutes, and he said, let's go and have coffee. It'll be better for me. I'm going to go leave this place with broken ribs and whatever. So off we went. Yeah. But,
And that's saying something, because you've had some
David,
rugby
what he
games in your
forgets-
time.
Yeah. What he forgets to add is that, when you play squash, there's a certain etiquette and a certain movements that
Yes.
you make. So,
No,
you
you-
hit
you
the ball
tell-
up there, but you never turn around like that.
No, don't turn on the
You never
guy.
turn around and then hit where the guy's standing. You play there and he comes and that's it, and you dominate the tee, and that's how the game works, But not with Martin. I saw this ball going over, and I was in front of him near the front wall,
Of course.
and I saw him turning, and he smashed this ball into the back of my leg. I tell you, You know how squash ball stings, eh?
Yeah, no,
And
time for coffee.
That was when he said, finito.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Martin, we're talking about a guy who gives up against you in 2 minutes of squash, and he's playing against Southwest Africa, where he survived like at least 57 or 50 or 60 minutes
Exactly.
against those bastards. Never mind you.
You know, there was another great cricketer, Ethel McKinnon, and he invited me to play bowls. And I said to him, Ethel, I've never played bowls before. Please, just understand, I'll come tomorrow. But those days we used to have a few beers at night, and you wobbled in the morning. You were a little bit bubble ass sort of thing. Anyway, I got there, and he said to me, Nefty, now you take this bowl, and the small side is the whatever, and the big side is the whatever. I still have never tried to find out what that was, the bias and the whatever. So he said, and when you hurl the ball, well, not hurl it, but when you tilt it, just make sure that the small one is on that side and the big one's on that. Anyway, I couldn't remember. So I sent it down at a hell of a speed, and it went crashing into the guys on the left-hand side. And he came to me and said, Nefty, please, don't do that. Take more grass. And whatever. I didn't understand take more grass. So I just sent it down at a hell of a speed. It almost got stuck in the wall on the other side. He came to me and said, Nefty, time out. It's into the bar, boy. Let's go and have a little beer over and out. So 2 minutes with Cowley and 2 minutes with Ethel McKinnon. Two great sportsmen. I enjoyed that big time. Yeah.
The moral of the story is that Martin enjoys violent sports.
I see that.
Yeah.
Oh, Martin. No, thank you so much, Martin, man. You've been a legend to come on as well. And enjoy your time in New Bethesda. I believe it's beautiful up there. We went to the wine tasting up there. There's a wine tasting they do as well now. Prof Renette in Bethesda.
And they've had a lot of rain. It's beautiful, honestly it is.
Lovely.
So, I'll be on my way back tomorrow, Gavin. We'll stay in touch, boy. Simple as that.
Yeah, boy. Great.
Excellent.
Gino, thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay.
Thank you, man. All right, Kev, there we go. I mean, a lifetime of memories you shared with Martin, it seems. And it's lovely to have a friend like that as well. It can also keep you down to earth.
Yeah, he's a very special guy, You sort of develop those friendships in PE, because Martin said to me when he left PE, he was working for Valvoline Oil Company. When he left PE, he shed tears when he drove over the bridge out at Blue Water Bay on his way to Joburg,
Yes.
And he absolutely just was beside himself. And so when he got the opportunity to come back to PE, he didn't budge. And he's a PE guy through and through. He'll never leave. He absolutely loves it, but he also does a lot of community work and all sorts of things, Martin, that people don't know about, which is also great. Yeah. And there's many people like that around. I remember the day when I left PE, also with a heavy heart.
Yes.
A guy called Alan Taylor. Taylor gave me a huge, big scrapbook, which I've still got, and it's absolutely brilliant, And Alan Taylor is like your quintessential PE guy. I mean, he's just such a special guy. Loved his sport. I don't know if you know Alan.
Is he a runner? Alan Taylor?
No, he doesn't
Not that
run.
one. Okay, no.
Well, unless he has to, but I suppose. But very, very, very special guy. And there are many others too that I could mention.
Yeah.
That still stay.
We've got some messages here from some of the guys. Now we're talking about some of them. I see before, Martin's still backstage, so you can have a look here at this stuff as well. I see Derek Nesbitt saying, how's it to Martin there as well. I see Keith Clark is online as well. Keith gives us the punters. Casey, he's giving us the punters gin and a bit of Kasparov and Spartacus keeps us in the liquor.
Another special man. Rob
Hepworth.
Great.
Rob Hepworth saying, how's it there as well? Martin Rimmer. The Rimmers also VP Boykies as well.
Philippus. Paul, my thoughts are all with you, my boy. I know you're a big, strong man. And you're also one of the brilliant sportsmen that have been around. And Philip took my sister out for a while.
Oh, really?
They dated in PE.
Oh, so he was only friends with you because of that.
No, he's a good man. Porky.
Yeah, Porky. There's Porky. Porky Connor. And Davina Coombs, Davina was in that picture with you as well. Mike
Yes.
Profferman saying, how's it as well? He was to read the
Yeah.
book.
Porky
He
Connor,
said,
I
why?
was
Where's
to
my
go
book?
down. Yeah.
There we go. He says, Marty Neft, fancy that, he says. And I see Ian Walland here saying, how's it?
Yeah,
too as well.
Also,
Got a
voice
picture
from
of
the
his
past,
family.
eh? The name
Yes.
from the past.
You know,
Fantastic.
all
man.
the Camilla's, I see, tell them about your army career camp with Akker and why you carried a bucket of ice. What? A bucket of ice?
Listen, Kennedy is we can't relive. I've told you about my army career. I was useless in the army.
Yes.
Full stop. That's
Yes.
it. No, but I tell you what, guys like him, Chris, I did do one camp, and I had to do one camp up on the border. And if it wasn't for guys like Chris Kennedy and a guy called Ian Daniel, who played cricket with us for EP as well. Chris played for Warmer and UPE.
Right.
If they weren't around, I think I would have gone insane. These guys were really
Really?
quite special, you know.
Oh, my
Yeah,
word.
so we
we
can't go
go.
into all those stories now.
Okay,
Oh, my
there's another one
goodness.
here. There's some that you can't tell online as well. Gav, please tell me about how we tried to bowl you out in junior school before school started with a tennis ball and a pine tree with the wickets.
Yeah, somehow I managed to not get out often. So the guys were all at me, and the Wallens definitely part of it. Eh?
I see Vince Lewis online as well. I don't know if you know Vince. He's a bass player. He's a musician.
I know of him. Yeah. I
Yes,
don't know him
yeah.
personally, but, I know
No,
of
Vince
him,
down
yeah.
in Cape Town, I think, as well.
Yep.
And then Philip is wanting to know what your mom's name was, because she sure would have played with Jean Marsdorp and Val Molyneux. Yes.
Yes, definitely. She was Cynthia. She was
Yes.
Cynthia Draper,
Okay.
and then Cynthia Cowley, of course. Yeah.
Oh, Cynthia Draper. Okay.
Cynthia, yeah.
Cowley,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. That's another story, this one.
And
South
I
Africa
already,
3 bucks against Canada at the boot. Oh,
really, the lights went out.
yeah. Yeah.
Dear.
The lights literally went out as the teams were about to go onto the field during the World Cup in
no.
'95.
Oh, the Oaks must
And
have
it was
loved
a
that.
disaster. You know how dark it was there. So, the guys were using lighters and all sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
But our audio was still working. So we had to keep
okay.
talking. And I was commentating with a guy called Russell Fairfax, Australian guy. And so we just shot the breeze, for a half an hour because those lights, you can't just switch them on again, They have to warm up. It takes a half an hour
Yes, of course. They're the
before it
huge
actually
things.
gets going again.
But your commentating, we really got into that, and probably just to sort of finish off, is the commentating stuff has been throughout now. From when did you start doing it? How did you get into that?
Yeah, how I got into that was when I got injured and I retired from rugby. I used to still go down to the boot and obviously watch EP playing. As Martin said, he used to take me down, on crutches
Yes.
and everything.
Yes.
And I bumped into a guy called Mike London. Now, Mike London is a very famous and well-known PE name. And Mike worked for Goodyear. He was in PR. And he was also a radio commentator, a journalist too. And I happened to be walking through the boot one day, and he said to me, don't you want to join me in the commentary booth? He's doing radio, not TV.
Okay.
Well, there was TV at the time, but anyway, that's what he was doing. So I said, sure, but I know nothing about commentating. So he said, no, it's fine. I'll handle it, and I'll just ask some questions, and you can comment and whatever. And so that's what we did. And obviously somebody heard my delivery and was happy with it. And the next minute I got a call. And in those days, it was the SABC. There was no Supersport, So I did an audition for them down in Cape Town at a club game at Newlands.
Yeah.
And when I arrived there, I said to the guy, okay, so what happens now? I said, no, well, let me just show you how these things work, the machines, and put your earphones on, and this is how the mic works, and that's your lazy talkback button. I said, hang on. Let me make some notes here. I said, no, it'll be fine, man. I said, well, where's the program? There's no program. I don't know these players. I don't know who these guys are. I maybe know one or two of them. They said, just call them anything, Pit Pompies or Gavin Cowley or whatever. So I went through this whole thing, and I thought, sure, but that wasn't that flash, I have to say. But a week later, they offered me a contract. And, so that was 34 years ago.
And did you were you at the World Cup '95? Was that were you working that shift as well?
Yeah.
Was it the final? Did you do the final as well?
I did. Yeah.
It was so that must have been incredible. I mean,
myself and a guy called Chick Henderson.
Yes,
the late Chick Henderson were on duty that day for that final,
Wow.
and yeah, it was an incredible day. Gino, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't describe the emotion in the build-up and everything that went with it. You know, and then the victory.
Yes. Yes.
Because a lot of people, you know, when it started, the very first game was at Newlands against Australia. And Australia were world champions at the time and a very good side. And a lot of people didn't think that we would start off on the right footing, that Australia would beat us, you know.
Okay, yes.
And I remember walking to the stadium and I bumped into a guy called Bill McLaren, who's the greatest rugby commentator ever, Scotsman. And Bill and I were chatting as we were walking along, and then we just heard this Madiba, this huge coming from inside the stadium, you know.
Wow.
And Nelson Mandela had just arrived, and he said to me in his broad Scottish twang, you know, that I think we'll see something special today. And
we all says you need the pipes.
Right.
Where are the pipes?
Yeah. So the Madiba magic worked right through that tournament, you know, and it was a great time, great occasion.
I mean,
wonderful.
Were you on duty with a drop kick for Stransky?
Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's awesome. That's absolutely iconic. You know, that you're there.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because, you know, I sort of like saw it coming.
Yeah.
And as a rugby player, you would sort of get a feel.
Yes.
And I saw him going back into the pocket, you know, because somebody said to me, "How did you know he was going to kick a drop goal?" You know, I could see them setting it for it. You know, getting the forwards right. Yours pass to him to his right, kicking left, right to left. He's going to bang this over, you know. And I made the call, and he kicked it over. It sailed through. It was a brilliant kick, absolutely brilliant kick. You know?
Unbelievable. Garth Sampson here asking just who's the most interesting player you ever played with or against?
Yeah, Garth, that's a great question. I think we've also probably got to define interesting in some ways. So we could say Dennis Comfer was an interesting player who I played with and at times against as well. That would sort of stand out. I tell you what I did was I didn't play a match against him, but I hit a few balls with Stefan Edberg, the tennis player. And he, as an individual, I wanted to ask him, you know, because he was number one in the world at the time.
Yes.
I wanted to ask him, you know, what it took to be a number one, you know, and he sort of like took a lot of words out of my mouth. And this was afterwards, you know, and he said, I'm not the best player in the world, but he says, I'm strong in mind and I'm strong in preparation, you know. And if you remember him as a player, he never, ever got sort of too emotional or upset or whatever.
Yes, no, he was very focused and quiet. Didn't lose his cool.
Focused on that. I sort of remember that, you know. But I mean, we weren't playing a match or anything. In terms of matches, there's a lot of people, you know. And so interesting again, Garth, when you say interesting, you know, what was quite interesting, but it was frightening as well, was when I faced Mike Proctor for the first time. I couldn't believe anybody could bowl as quickly as him and swing the ball as much as he did. Unbelievable.
On the wrong foot, when he used to whip that arm around.
And it's like flying past you, you know, and playing and missing all day long sort of thing. That stands out. And interesting people sometimes, you know, there's a guy called Johan de Bruin who played a lot for the Springboks. And he only had one eye. The other one was a glass eye. And he took it out one day to show me what it looked like.
Really? Go
I came close to fainting.
Check you.
But there were interesting people, you know, that one interesting person that I played cricket against. Oh, my goodness, Tomo.
Tomo saying, how's it?
Me and Martin left,
Did you swim across the boot?
Yeah, you know, we had those floods in 68.
Yes. Yes.
And then 81.
Yes, 81. Yes, yes. I
In
remember
1981, Martin Neft is a guy that gets up very early in the morning.
Yeah.
He was knocking on my door in 7th Avenue, and he was down the road. He said, "We've got to go now. There's a flood on the go, you know." Now, if you remember the flood in 81, I mean, you were still very young then.
Yes.
But-
No, I remember walking into I was in Villiers Road at the time, and I walked up the passage into water, and I thought, yes, like I've never seen water here.
Yeah.
And we got
the
the
boys
day
were
of school.
canoeing down First Avenue, Newton Park there. And
Yes.
Neft said, we got to swim at the butt. We went. We couldn't go down Brickmaker's Kloof because it had collapsed. You know,
Yes.
it was a nightmare. And
Yeah,
the boat was going. There was a huge current coming down, and there
Really?
were motor cars and trees and all sorts of things coming down. You know,
Holy
I said,
crap.
"Neft, we can't do this. You know, this is crazy. Now we must swim to the tunnel because the water was lapping the crossbar. That's how deep it was. You know? But it was
Wow.
flowing. Eh?
Yeah.
So never again. I mean,
Okay, so you
and
swam
I'm a
it,
strong enough
but you
swimmer,
made
and,
it.
No, we didn't get there. No, we didn't get there. We
didn't.
turned and came back. No, it was hectic, man. I mean,
Okay,
honestly,
okay.
it was a stupid thing to do.
A life or death experience.
Yeah,
Oh, my
definitely.
word. I see Greg Van Staden saying that they were involved in the video feed there at the Boot in 95, and we oversee at the time. So happy we could see from a pub at the Isle of Man that the lights went out. Oh, I see.
Wow.
Transmission
Greg,
good,
how
but
about
not
that,
so
eh?
good. Oh dear.
Great
Oh, no.
memories. Eh?
Yeah, fantastic. So I mean, and the you say the it's for Supersport still you're still doing the commentary. We can still look out for you every now and again.
Yeah, I'm still commentating. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot less than I did in those early days, but I still
Yeah.
enjoy broadcasting. You know, for as long as I'm tolerated, I'm very
Yes.
happy to continue doing it, and you know, and also helping some of the younger guns. You know, we brought young
Yeah.
people onto the team too.
Yeah.
That are starting out a broadcasting career now. So that sort of knowledge transfer is an important element. You know,
Yes,
I try and
sure.
spend quite a bit of time with guys, just giving my pennies worth, you know, to them
Yes.
to make them better than what they are and the things to sort of
Isn't
look out for. And
Isn't it
Yeah.
ironic that speaking English very well might well have stopped you from playing in the Springboks, but it certainly kept you in a job in the sport for many more years than that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, Gino, I mean, my whole life literally has been sport. You know, I worked for a short time at VW and Plascon Paint Company.
Yes.
But I've basically been in sport, you know, like my whole life. And
Yeah.
I felt very privileged to have worked for Adidas, which is a great brand.
Yes.
And some
Yes.
wonderful people. You know, Tony O'Hagan, our managing director, played at Wimbledon. March Fiascanaro, part of our team, was the world record holder for the 800 meters. At the time when he was competing, Gordon Macmillan played cricket for Transvaal and badminton for South Africa. Pine Pienaar, Martin Neft, you know, all these guys, Clive Horde, Mike Horde, they were all part of the management team there. So we all spoke the same lingo, you know, which was brilliant.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant.
We've seen this friendship come up every now and again. Garth Webster saying, "Hello, Gavin," and friendship. And it's a name of your book as well, obviously, too. So, what is the meaning of that?
Well, God's spending too much time with Martin because, you know, everybody calls him friendship. You know,
Oh, really?
because he's got this. Yeah, Martin. When he bumps into you, the first thing he'll say to you is, "Gino, friendship," like that. You know,
Oh,
and that's sort of where it's stuck. You
The way
know,
it does.
so yeah. So he's
lovely.
very much a friendship guy. I mean, he's a special guy. He really is,
yeah.
and quite different.
I can see Robbie Durant, one of the greatest commentators as an up and coming commentator. We can only listen and watch in awe, I would presume. Legend, he says.
Thanks, Robbie. Oh, that's lovely, man.
Fond memories of working in the change rooms at George's with Gavin, captain the EP. Rugby legend commentator.
Hopefully, I behaved myself, Rob.
At least Rob's spelling okay. He hasn't had too many beers yet. We go. Philip says my memories from our school days back in the
Love
lawn
that.
where Lindsay and myself tried to bowl you out, but got clapped all over the show. Oh,
So Lindsay's my brother. Lindsay Cowley,
Oh, right.
my brother. He lives in Joburg now. And
Okay.
and he and Philip, used to, like Ian Wallen at school, they'd all try and bowl me out, and
Yes.
I would not give my wicket away, boy. I tell you what, I'll hang in there.
Too competitive.
Like yeah. Yeah,
I see
I was very
Anka's,
competitive.
Anka's saying, hello, Uncle Gavin. There's only...
I hope you heard your dad too. He was on a little bit earlier.
Yes, it's like it's there only certain people you still call uncle and auntie. It's just the way you can be 50 years old.
Well, I have to tell you something, that the very first rugby match that was played by one of the Springboks,
Yeah.
France Steyn. So Francois Steyn still playing.
Okay.
for
Yes.
the
Yes.
Springboks.
Yes. Yeah.
He was 18 years of age at Kings Park in Durban. And he played out of his boots. He was unbelievable on a very wet day. And when I went down to do the post-match interview,
Yeah.
which was with the captain, and he was the man of the match.
Okay.
And I saw him from a distance. He's quite a big boy, and he
Yes.
was only 18, and his eyes were this size. And as I was coming towards him, he said, "Wim, kan ons asseblief Afrikaans praat? Uncle, can we please speak Afrikaans?"
Yes.
Because he couldn't speak English
Really?
at the time. Yeah,
Deliciously even.
yeah, exactly. I said to him, firstly, ek is nie jou oom nie. And he said, "Ja, oom." So, which is the Afrikaans way of doing it, that, and I have great respect for that. I love it.
I'll never,
and I
I'll never
managed
forget
to-
watching Loet de Jager as well, also saying to the referee, "Oh, sorry, Wim," on the mic cam, on the field cam.
Shame we managed to sort of like navigate our way through this interview where he
Yes.
gave like one word answers, and then he finished the last one with "Ja, nee." It's in Afrikaans.
Yes.
And I explained to him afterwards, that these broadcasts go out to right around the world.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have to speak English,
English,
So
yes. You have to speak for you English.
Traveled off.
There we go. I see Ronald Manoy, he's awake in New Zealand at the moment. Must be pretty late there at the moment. So we can answer his question. It says, did you and Hugh Bladen ever commentate together at the same time?
Yeah, if Ronald's suggesting were we in the same booth together,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. When I started commentary, I was the expert opinion, and Huey was the anchor commentator. He was the main guy,
Okay.
So that's how I started. And
Wow.
for a couple of years, that's the role that I performed. And then
Yeah.
I only moved into anchoring after about 4 or 5 years. So those first
Yeah.
4 or 5 years were with Huey.
Yeah.
At all times, and we had a very small team in those days, and there was less rugby played and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from him. He was a legend.
Yeah.
Got a bit thirsty after most games, but
I love
But
hearing
that's-
stories like that. You need to
Lads
know
of
these
biscuit,
people are real.
yeah.
I like to have a bit of a dop, and like you say, was it Hugh Bladen? Who was it that? No, not Hugh Bladen. Who was the cricketer with the cane and the cane in the
Colin
shots
Bland.
of cane? Colin Bland.
Yeah. But he got quiet though, When he
Yes,
had a couple,
okay.
he just got quiet, So other guys get a little
right.
bit more boisterous, and
Yes.
everyone's got
Out
their
of hand.
niche, their way.
Yes. Oh man! Oh, thank you so much, Gavin. You've been an absolute legend. I don't want to keep you all night. You're gonna go have some supper at some stage. What we'll do is. I don't know if Gary's just flashed a question in front of you that have you had any strange or funny moments on Supersport while you're commentating? Anything gone wrong or anything?
Yeah, well, I mentioned one earlier on
Yeah. Yes.
with Marko Drotsky.
Yes.
Yeah. So I won't
Right,
repeat
yeah.
that. I won't
Yes.
repeat that one.
It wasn't great. Yes.
No, I'll tell you what, they've been, sure, they always are. I've always promised myself that I would prepare well, as best as I can,
Yes.
with whatever I do. So I'm in Kimberley,
Oh yeah.
and the Sharks are playing against Griquas.
Yes.
And who's in the Sharks team? A man who's just come back from a long spell in Italy, AJ Fenter.
Oh, right.
So
Yes.
we all doing our usual prep, and I'm sitting there waiting and that, and suddenly there's a question, a call from the director. Can I go downstairs and do a 2-minuter, only 2 minutes, with AJ Fenter? So,
AJ Fenter.
okay, no problem. So I'm thinking to myself, oh no, AJ Fenter, 25 tests for South Africa, done that there. So I sort of like got in my memory bank,
Yes.
So I get down and we start chatting in that, and it's got to be very short in that. And then I said to him, I'm sure you must be really pleased to be back in South Africa again, and ready to play on this hard field in Kimberley. And he said, yeah, no, go. And I said, and so, and how does your wife feel about being back? And as I said, wife, he started going like this and backing off. He wasn't married at the time any longer. So, good sport that
So
is. I apologize.
You
to
outed
wife.
it.
Yeah.
Their sponsors are already like, oh, nee, ons kan nie so man hê nie. If he can't keep his marriage together, then how can he be? Oh my word, you're going to cost him a lot of money.
But in the same city of Durban, we used to play the World Rugby Sevens there. The Sevens tournament.
Oh, right, yes.
There,
which we've just won, I believe.
Pardon?
I believe we just won the sevens as well. Blitzbokke.
No, they're flying, yeah. But we
Yeah.
used to play it there, and it's now in Cape Town when there's a South African leg. And, those games are quick, and it's going and it's moving and blah, blah, blah. And the final was played, the plate final, I think it was between Tunisia and Kenya.
Okay.
And so I'm commentating, and we're going. Now I've got to go down onto the field from the commentary box to hand over the trophy to the winner,
Yeah.
And so Tunisia are leading by, let's call it 12 points to 10, Okay. So I'm on my way down, and I just heard a roar and that, and I get onto the field, and I'm straight into it. There's no time for the floor manager to tell me what and the bloody scoreboard went on the blink. So I assumed Tunisia had won, So I called up the captain of Tunisia to come and receive the trophy after I'd introduced all the dignitaries. And I saw he looked at me, and I thought, well, maybe his English is not that great, And he was like shaking his head like this, And then I looked across at the Kenya guys, and they were laughing like Cheshire cats, I mean, and when you're live on television, and thank heavens, someone slipped up behind me like this and said, Kenya.
Okay.
And so I'm just about giving the trophy to this guy because I told him, come, when we moved it and gave it to the Kenyan captain,
Oh, that would have been brilliant.
We make those mistakes, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, Martin's got a question for you there, Gav. Any opinions on the current state of SA rugby?
Yeah, Martin, we need hours to discuss that. It's another great question because a lot of people worry about South African rugby. I worry a lot less, I have to say, because I do believe, we've got very strong pipelines. Our school system is extremely good and extremely strong. We don't have club rugby at the moment. Varsity Cup's going to become a lot more important in the future than it has been in the past, maybe.
Yes.
And if you look at all these stepping stones,
isn't that the way the Americans do it? I suppose the college football and that stuff. It's
the
huge.
draft system is going to become an important part, I think, of the future. And I also believe that private enterprise is going to take over our franchises. It's got to happen. It's starting to happen already, as we can see, because we need business expertise of the highest order and lots of money too, to be able to compete. Don't worry about guys that are leaving our country. I can tell you what, 10 years ago, there were 400 people playing rugby elsewhere from South Africa. Tenk Hendricks was playing his 12th test for Russia, and this one was, and that one was there.
Jeez,
can you believe it? I mean, so I think we'll always have that pipeline. And that pipeline is even stronger now since the destruction of apartheid, where we've now got so many more young black boys and colored boys who are absolutely outstanding players, And there's a critical mass of people.
Yeah.
So what is the most important thing for us to do? And it's what I used to discuss as well at government level. And I had meetings with Mandela and Steve Twetty and Nondi Balfour and these guys, was the importance of the other elements that come into this. Coaching, number one.
Yes.
Coaching, very important. Depending on the levels of coaching. So at a very young level, you don't start with something too technical, but you build it up, So coaching, facilities hugely important too. So if you take those elements and we actually string them together, don't worry about the playing and more than we've had in the past. So it's very much in a nutshell. It's just a personal feelings. I don't represent anybody with those feelings. Those are my thoughts, And,
no, it's a good. I think it's that'll be marvelous if that varsity rugby gets going. I see Dave Callis is saying how's it as well. Top effort.
Callis, little biscuit. Also another very talented man, eh?
Brilliant.
Dave Callahan and Greg Miller were two boys that went through Grey that were also absolutely outstanding sportsmen, all rounders,
Yes.
That really did so well over time. In fact, Dave Callahan's dad, Mike, used to referee when I was playing.
All right.
And he refereed one match in Utenhage at the Central Field.
The Hague, we call it.
UP against Old Collegians, where 5 minutes before the end of the game, he had to ask somebody to go and start his car and get the engine running. Because when the final whistle went, he was in that car and gone. because no one was happy with his decisions that he took.
I'm sure. And in Utenhage, that's a dangerous place to be.
yeah. Wonderful man, Mark Callahan.
Oh, no, magic. Oh, but thank you so much, Gavin. You've been an absolute legend, man. Thank you for spending your time with us. It's been a marathon interview. Fantastic, man. We could have spoken the whole bloody night, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. Got lots more to tell you.
Thank you so much, Gavin, for coming on and for giving us your time. We've got a little competition that we run now where we're going to put the people that have put comments in, and we just put them in a machine, and we see what who comes out, and they will be winning the case of Fitch and Leeds as well. So there we go. Let's see what we got. We got Rob Anthony. I'm getting all sorts of people here coming here. We got Mike Brown from
Alphas.
Well, we got Mike. You're a lucky winner tonight. I think we owe one. We owe one to Mike as well. So we'll definitely get him a package for sure. He deserves one now. Thank you to everybody for joining us here tonight on Gino Spot. Indeed, thank you to Gavin Cowley and of course to Martin Neft for coming and Fires for coming to the studio too. It's been marvelous. Thank you to our sponsors Fitch and Leeds and to Spa as well. And Mobia, our internet, they get our internet going. We only had one short burst of internet problems, but we had Fires yet to take the reins, so we were cool. Thank you, Gavin.
Great pleasure, Gino. Thank you, boy. Well done, eh?
It's a pleasure. We'll see you then. Thanks to Fat Cats as well for a couple of little chow that we got here too. It's been bloody marvellous. And best of luck, Gav. We hope to see you in PE soon.
Yeah, can't wait. I want to get into that nice warm ocean.
Excellent. Cheers, Gavin. Ciao then. Go and have some supper now and join your wife. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. We'll see you on Thursday when we have... who's on Thursday is coming? Warren Jack is on. Warren Jack's on Thursday. We've got Warren Jack on Thursday, so don't miss out on that. It's going to be fantastic fun. Thank you for joining us. Fitch and Leeds, it's Spa, Amobia, Fat Cats. Thanks Keith Clark for appearing on the top as well, for the punters. All right, we'll see you on Thursday. Relax, sit down. Coming out of PE town. One drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver, get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Get to Gino Spot.
Gino Spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.